And once again, thanks to your family as well for being here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Ernst. Senator Peters, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General, good to see you again. Enjoyed our conversation in the office earlier. As you know, I chair the Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee in addition to being a member of this committee. And so I'm concerned that, that our military installations here at home in the Homeland may be vulnerable to attacks by adversaries seeking to disrupt or even prevent normal operations and the movement of forces within the United States. These adversaries may seek to exploit base resilience on infrastructure in the surrounding communities that help to sustain just everyday base functions. So given the interdependency between critical civilian infrastructure, military installations, and local civilian communities, how would you envision Cybercom's role compared to the DHS role to identify, to defend, and report cyber threats posed to DoD installations and their surrounding communities, particularly those installations who are charged with deploying combat capabilities abroad or are essential to national security?
Senator, it's a great question. And to start with, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency is a great teammate and collaborator with U.S. Cyber Command. Major concepts that we're thinking about and what we've really learned through our partnership with European Command, U.S. Strategic Command, and U.S. Transcom as it relates to Ukraine. Two concepts of set the theater, how did we help EUCOM ensure their networks were secure and they had resilient communications, and then set the globe. Because in reality, anytime that the Department of Defense is operating, it really is a global set of connectivity that begins in the United States. Mm-hmm. So when we think about generating force from Transcom, when we think about our nuclear command and control, that is inherently a partnership that rests on the infrastructure of the United States. Areas that in my experience, I've worked incredibly close with CISA as part of the original lead for the election defense activities that we conducted in U.S. Cyber Command NSA in support of Homeland Security. That was one of my first functions in U.S. Cyber Command, and I've now been part of that for 3 years. One of the areas the department is investing in, we currently have a strong liaison presence with DHS and they with us. The department is going to expand that to allow us to have liaisons with each sector that CISA is responsible for. So I see this partnership only growing.
Right. Are there best practices that you would recommend to streamline and optimize the collaboration between Cybercom and DHS, CISA in particular?
So I think, Senator, the area that we can contribute with our OSD colleagues and our other combatant commands is to articulate what infrastructure is important to the department. So we owe that to ensure that, and we do that well today, but that will continue to change. As technology changes, as our demands on industry change, and as our infrastructure changes, we have to ensure that there's a really clear understanding with not only our teammates in DHS, but if there's a different sector agency that's responsible, but the infrastructure that CISA has to be able to work with individual sectors, how their ISACs do information sharing, those are inherent strengths for the nation, and those are areas that we should be really good partners.
Right. I recently returned from a trip to the Western Balkans where I heard from our Albanian allies about the devastating Iranian cyber attacks against their country. And it's certainly that these types of attacks by both nation-state and non-state actors are going on frequently and in severity against our allies. I certainly want to applaud the actions of our embassy in Tirana, along with support provided by the FBI, Microsoft, EUCOM, Cybercom, and others that responded very swiftly and professionally when requested by the Albanian government. Given that, unfortunately, this threat's only going to increase in this space, and they're likely to be the target of increased attacks from the Iranians. So my question for you is, what action should Cybercom and interagency be taking now to better help partners and allies proactively defend against this threat? Then the second part of the question is, how can we provide more robust medium to long-term cyber recovery relief with U.S. private sector support to help these countries rebuild their cyber infrastructure, just as we would help a country recover from a natural disaster?
Senator, first, in terms of the Albania, I too have met with Albanian leadership, and we, as part of the team that has responded based off of guidance from the department, and then with our interagency teammates to ensure that we can get their networks back up and operating in concert also with their state partner to be able to make them more resilient. It's an example, I think, from our perspective of how do we share information. So how do we share information in terms of threats with our allies and with industry in a way that makes everyone more resilient? And that is an area that from the Albanian perspective, is a good example of areas that we could contribute.
Great. Thank you, General. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator Peters. Before I recognize Senator Budd, I will formally turn over the chairmanship temporarily to Senator King. I have to go to the Appropriations Committee. Senator Budd, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. General Ogg, thanks for being here this morning again. Thanks for your family. I enjoyed our conversation last week, so it's good to see you again.